Ladies and gentlemen, the African American Theater Arts Troupe.
I am 19 and there's a picture of you hanging on my wall and I'm checking your face for disappointment. As I stand here and I stomp on that bird of a dream that you once had, how many of us know you? You see, I grew up in a time where you were more of an icon for peace than a role model for struggle. I grew up in a place where you were taught in my history classes, covered for less than 1/2 of a class period, and anything else I wanted to know, I had to learn on my own. I do not know how many generations of slaves and sharecroppers I come from, and to tell you the truth, before writing this letter, I could not name 5 things you fought for. Or how many times you said in jail so that my everyday freedoms would not be something that I would have to fight for. I want to help our communities, but I'm afraid to go back. Is there a way I can borrow some of your courage? What helped you find it when you had bombs thrown into your home, or when those 4 girls in Birmingham said their midnight prayers? You see, I grew up in the backwoods of Mississippi, where I was not the child that you would hope that I would be. I'm named after your son, and I'm still hoping to live up to any expectations you have for him. Before being snatched away, you planted a seed which bears shade that you knew you would never be able to sit in. And we as a people will sit in that shade and remain stagnant, proclaiming your name, but how many of us know you? We can wear the shirts, put up the posters, and shout the slogans, but until we know all the history behind the movement, we do nothing more than trivializing the entire struggle. You see, I'm going to help our communities. I promise I will. I don't know how many times that I've said this, but there's a dream out there. I just have to believe in it. I just hope that one day I'll be alive to see it. And before any of that happens, well, I have to be it. We have to be it. We have to be the dream. Can you help us? This letter is signed with apologies to my ancestors from Dexter.
We conclude that in the field of public education, the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. May 17th, 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education. This was the verdict saying that schools will no longer be segregated because separate but equal schools are unequal. Was it really one person with the name Brown that was daring and willing enough to fight the system to get his education? Because this seems like a foretelling of our current situation. Because every brown person will have to fight the system to get their education now. Because look around you. How many different various shades of brown are in your classroom? Now flip it. Let's compare that to the amount of white students in the same class. I'm not trying to hate, but look what happened. Was the system ever enforced in our classrooms? Because around 2%, not even 1.9% of this student population that is African American might say yes. Yes, since they were one of the few that got that acceptance letter. Another 26%, that is our Chicano Latino population, are saying that the price of tuition is getting too damn high and they're needed back home to help support the family. And here we are. Every time Friday night rolls into Sunday morning, we're saying, turn down for what? Turn up. All the while, another person of color back home is sent away for 10 to 20 years or a lifetime because they wanted to follow the status quo. They were thugging it, pimping it, slanging it, just to get some cash, just to get some kush, or just trying to find the ends meet. Because they couldn't be part of that 1.9% and make a difference in their lives and the children to come. Or we're slaving away in the fields, trying to get a meager check that could barely get enough on the table and pay for bills, or we have to choose between the two. I'll tell you this, that in 10 to 20 years, this system will have a rude wake-up call because in 10 to 20 years, it's gonna be our generation sitting in them judge seats, those Congress seats, another person on that presidential throne saying, we're represented in this government. But why do we have to wait so long? Because, you know, in 10 to 20 minutes, in 10 to 20 hours, in 10 to 20 months, we can go out there, start a project, start a movement, and start a revolution to make sure this 1.9%, this 26%, this 20% can equal out, and this really is an equal playing field for us all.
I had a dream, the dreams of Martin were my only margin. See, even uncrowned kings could plant a royal garden. But if a flower sharpens and grows within this hour, from a world that's far from ripe and sour, may it not down your towers of disbelief, because this world reeks of power beneath our feet and leaders that go to instinct that hold us to reach the TOP and learn to just be F-R-E-E. Too much time to follow, not enough opportunities to fall far from usually and stand up on the edge of a cliff with our master's whip beneath our feet. Time to lead, no more unfit keys to our thrones and front seats. Time to park and no more coming, up short no more becoming, resorts of our upcoming, time to take the court to juries, no deterring. So come now. Time to provide some fresh air into your lungs now. Tired of that pollution, institutions, and we gone down. This is substitution, now it's time for them to bow down. Give us cries now, hear us out loud, and hope that our sounds. Peace you dip it in the soul that bears you to your ears, and hope that you will forgive us for all those tainted years we wasted reincarnating the segregation and tears. And pain in the darkened mirror that you envision. If we live to be a witness on these moments to reflect on every moment you project and piece together every single piece of the concrete, because every step you ever taken up on steeps, you spoke words that left a legacy.
I know he will. He said he will. He'll fight my battles if I keep still. I know he will. He said he will. He'll fight my battles if I keep still. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Everything will be alright.
August 28th, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivers his famous speech, I have a dream, empowering a nation of people, empowering millions of people in a nation of discrimination. July 2nd, 1964, Civil Rights Bill bans segregation in the public workplace and public accommodations. January 24, 2014, a 13-year-old boy, my brother, is attacked by 4 white men, perpetuating the fear that we, people of color, have faced for centuries. Day and again, they say that minorities are dangerous, that minorities will harm this nation. Day and again, they lock our brothers and sisters into cell block after cell block because they say we are too angry. Our men, women, and children harassed, beaten, and bruised, and they have the audacity to say that we are a threat. But I stand here in all my anger to all those assembled this afternoon that despite the darkness of this hour, we must not despair. When my brother called me that night, pain and tears dripping through the phone, anger flaming me, I was 10 seconds away from dropping out. But I stand here breaking my brother's promise, because this is my resistance. If we are not here, then they win. If we do not better ourselves, then they win. If we do not lose our anger, then they win. So I stand in these classrooms and I look dead in the eyes of my brother's attacker, and I march on. I march on.
Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on.
I have a dream. Dr. Martin Luther King, I have a vision. Vaster than the Dead Sea, we are the resistance. Brothers and sisters all around, hear to the sound, while we surround, yet never surrender to hate. Surrounded by hate, 400 years a bit too late, yet we still see violence create. Racism discriminate. This isn't our fate. We fly with the wings of our lords, the wings of our saints. We rise among these ashes. We swim among these fish. They say we won't fight back, but look at the gashes on our skin. Skin of old, skin of our ancestors. Let the scars tell what was never told. We walk this lonely road to triumph. Is this road worth taking? Dr. King gave up his life. We are his dream in the making. We feel this pain so detrimental to the system, yet we have so much left to say. We shall overthrow these systems leading us to death row. Grow as a rose, showing its scars and its thorns. These petals of our ancestors are falling to oppression. But through it all, we must catch that train to a better nation, where we're leading one by one, pleading against police guns with peaceful riots. This system of only white, we must fight it. This fire inside us, we must ignite it. While these evil Columbuses touch these shores of sand, though we're all from the same grain, let our voices soar through the promised land. Let Dr. King's death not be in vain.
Everything will be alright. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on.
I want you to hear the whispers of all those voices unheard, all those names that'll never make it in our history books. Listen to the way their melodies hold the key to the promised land. Those are the voices of the people marching with Dr. King. Those are the voices of the mothers of the church lifting their voice up high to lift their people up higher. Listen to their voice. Listen to the melodies and how they held our broken bodies like Christ was held by nails. Freedom never tasted so sweet. Grab your wrist. Look at the prints on your arm made by oppression. Now press your hands together. This is how our people learn to live. Our prayer is our power. Now hold your hands up high and learn to love yourself. Our love is our power. Now link arms with your sisters and brothers. Our unity is our power. We are power. Beautiful are those who find love in their pain and triumph in their struggle and still remain proud in their stance, no matter how crooked our shadows may appear. Beautiful are those who continue to dance, even when their feet are bloody from walking in cotton fields. Beautiful was he. Beautiful he was, even though he was beaten for whistling at a white woman. Beautiful was he, Black Hoodie, Skittle, Arizona, and all. Beautiful are we when we continue to fight on. We have got to move on, even when you feel discriminated against, even when you're that token black in the all-white classroom, even when your classes start to feel like sit-ins, when the daily racism feels like 1860 all over again. Remember that you are free. 13th Amendment, December 18th, 1865. Remember that you are free. You have got to keep going. Promise me that your voice will be just as important as the marchers in Birmingham, the mothers of the church, the first black students to integrate an all-white university. Promise me you will keep going, because we are creating history.
We'll be alright.
Hold on just a little while.
Thank you. African American Theater Arts Troupe, the very talented group. Welcome to the 30th annual Martin Luther King It's nice to be tall. Thank you to the 30th annual UCSC Martin Luther King Jr. Convocation. Welcome. Before we go any further, I want to thank the sponsors of this event, the City of Santa Cruz, the NAACP Santa Cruz County Branch, the Good Times, Inner Light Ministries, and Maverick Mailing, who prepared these programs gratis. And now I have the honor of introducing the Chancellor of the University of California, Santa Cruz, George Blumenthal.
Thank you, David. I rarely have to lower a microphone. Welcome all of you to the 30th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Convocation. You know, UC Santa Cruz has been hosting this event for 30 years, and we have a tremendous legacy of speakers. They include, among others, Julian Bond, Alice Waters, poet Nikki Giovanni, Van Jones, and a really distinguished list of speakers. This is such a positive community celebration of Dr. King's values. And I want to thank you all for coming and thank you all for being a part of it. And I particularly want to thank the many, many people on campus and off who work behind the scenes to put this event together. This event endures because it resonates with the community and the values. Okay, it resonates, we'll get this right. It resonates with the values we all share: social justice, equality, diversity. Our keynote speaker's story speaks of the role of youth in social change, and that's an important message for many of us in the audience. So we have a bunch of high school students here today. I know we have 100 students from Seaside High School. You know, when I visited Seaside High School a few months ago, I promised you a free ride up to this event and a free dinner. I hope you enjoyed it. And we also have the Black Student Union from Santa Cruz High School here with us tonight. Speaking of high school, did you know that Dr. King himself enrolled at Morehouse College at the age of 15? He was an early admission student during what would have been his junior year in high school. And I'm sure that there are many UCSC students in the audience as well. Do we have any banana slugs with us? Oh. So let's talk about education for just a moment. Dr. King believed that the power of education was twofold. The first is utilitarian, and the second is cultural. Education, he wrote, must enable a person to, quote, become more efficient, to achieve with increasing facility the legitimate goals of his life. But he said education must also train one for quick, resolute, and effective thinking. He said, to think incisively and to think for oneself is very difficult. And one of the chief aims of education, he wrote, was to save us from the morass of propaganda. Education must enable us to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the truth from the false, the real from the unreal, the fact from the fiction. And that's more true today than ever before. You are, we all are, overrun with information, and we must sift and discern, as Dr. King advised. That's the kind of education that we offer at UC Santa Cruz. One that educates the whole person, encourages you to think for yourself, to think effectively, to think incisively. To you high school students in the audience, I say, come on up and check out our campus. The world needs more banana slugs. There are incredible opportunities to work with wonderful professors like David Anthony. And talk about a man who upholds Dr. King's legacy. His students love him, and UC Santa Cruz loves him. So thank you very much, and let me welcome David back to the podium.
Thank you very much. You know, it's a lovely tradition here that I had to get used to when I moved to California, that people call each other by their first name, but they mean it here. As we move along, we want to pause for a moment of reflection, and we are honored tonight to have that reflection delivered by Lex. Lex is a spoken word artist and educator focusing on social justice and spiritual liberation. As a multiracial, queer-identified transgender artist and activist, Lex's work emphasizes the intersections of gender, race, sexuality, and spiritual liberation, offering a genuinely unique perspective. A UCSC alum of Oaks College, 2005, Lex is the communications director of Inner Light Ministries in Santa Cruz. Lex.
There's going to be tall jokes all night. Good evening. My name is Lex, and I am on the board of directors for Inner Light Ministries. As an omni-faith organization, we strive to embody the radical legacy of love that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has charged us with this manifestation. I dedicate this to the bold vision of Dr. King, a world that works for everyone, filled with a love that heals and embraces all. This poem is an original work titled The Least of These. Never has the wind refused to blow by you. There is no flame that would not turn its heart to warm you, or earth that could not sustain your insatiable hunger. Water never asks your shape before she will hold you. She simply takes you in with equanimity. See, water never asks where your wounds come from, never wonders how you got this way, or even considers that you're not exactly as you should be. For the elements have made acceptance and service elementary. And it is said that a drop of the ocean, even when moved from the shore, is still the ocean. And our prayers must beg this question: what gives a drop the courage to rage like the sea? A pebble the same audacity to stand as sturdy as the mountain? What elemental cause is there to explain the devotion of a domesticated flame to the heat of the sun? It's as simple as this: they never question if they are the same as that of which they are made. And so, like the fire, the rain, or the wind, we have appeared in this time and space, as elemental as love and as divine as light, and yet some have chosen to close their eyes, to turn their heads from the sight of their own neighbor. But a refusal to serve some is a refusal to serve us all. For whatever some have been, so have we all. We have been the tears of a longing mother, the weary bones of overworked bodies, the rumble of hunger in the bellies. We have been the laughter on the lips of sleepy children and the prayers of faithful disciples. We have been 80 years around the sun with skin like the forks and valleys of riverbeds. We have been a small child 5 years from the womb whose playmates are the sand and iron of a project playground. We have been the battle-weary and the weeping men. We have been a celebration of life and death and union and love and laughter, and there is not a face we cannot find our reflection in, not a soul that doesn't know our own. And with these eyes and with this heart, there is no suffering we cannot see, and no joy we cannot experience, and therefore no justification for turning a blind eye. For like the flame that burns with the heat of the sun, we must love like creation to honor our Creator. Hold each who has arrived like our own child, and never let a soul we meet leave without knowing that we have waited our whole lives to love you, so that we can love ourselves more fully. For in the service of creation we remain. No love we cannot give, and none we cannot receive, because a drop of life we will always be. There is nothing that can be bound that love cannot free.
Good evening. My name is Shaz Umair. I'm the chair of the Student Union Assembly at UC Santa Cruz. It is my great honor to be introducing our keynote speaker tonight, Dr. Freeman Hrabowski. Today, Dr. Hrabowski is the president of the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I think it's fair to say that he wouldn't be here with us tonight if it weren't for the great Martin Luther King Jr., the man whose legacy we're celebrating tonight. You see, Freeman Hrabowski was only 12 years old when his life changed, all because of Dr. King. Freeman was a quiet kid from Birmingham. He says the toughest thing he's tackled up to that point in his life was a math problem. But hearing Dr. King preach against injustice and segregation changed his life. A light bulb went on. He saw the promise of a new day, a day that could look very different, much better than that day in 1963. Hearing Dr. King inspired Freeman to join the civil rights movements, to join the struggle for racial justice. He decided to participate in the Children's March, taking to the streets with other children and young people to fight for equality, to fight for a better tomorrow. That's the story we're going to hear about now, from a leading educator who has dedicated his life to expanding opportunity. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Freeman Hrabowski. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Is there any way I can see some faces? It's something, I'm a math teacher by training, and I like to see faces to make sure people are not going to sleep. I see my dear friends, the Yeagers right there, that you all brought from Baltimore. Would you give the Yeagers a hand? I love them dearly. I still claim them. And David Anthony, my friend, but if I can see some lights just a bit, as much as possible, because I like to interact with the faces of people somehow, and I'm looking really hard trying it, so whatever you can do to help me. I begin with words from the philosopher McCall, who is saying essentially, oh, that's so much better. Hi, it's nice to see you, it's good. That whatever it is that is important to us as a society, as a university, as individuals, will be so important we become like whatever that is. And so it says this: be under no illusion. You shall gather to yourselves the images that you love. As you go, the lights, the shapes, the shadows of the things you have preferred will come to you. Yes, inevitably, inveterately, as bees to their hive. And there in your mind and spirit, they will leave with you their distilled essence, sweet as honey or bitter as gall. As men see the color in the waves, so shall men see in you the things you've loved most. Out of your eyes will look the spirit you've chosen. And in your smile, the years will speak. You will not walk, nor stand, nor sit, nor will your hand move, but you will confess the one you serve. Cleverness may select skillful words to cast a veil about you, and circumspection may never sleep, yet will you not be hid. No. As year adds to year, that face of yours which lay like an unwritten page in your baby's crib will take to itself lines and still more lines, like the parchment or paper of an old historian who jealously writes down all the history. And there in your face, more deep than acids etch the steel, will grow the inscribed narrative of your mental habits, the emotions of your heart, your sense of conscience, your response to duty, what you think of your God, of your fellow man, and of yourself. It will all be there for men and women. Become like that which they love, and the name thereof is written on their brows, dreams and values. Thank you. I begin with that quote from McCall because the message tonight is this. The way we think about ourselves, the language that we use, the way we interact with each other, the way we treat those who don't have what we have, the way we envision the possibilities for the future will not only shape who we are today, but will shape who we will be, who our children and our children's children will be in the future. I go back to 1963. I was 12, and my parents were always pushing me to have some constructive experience, and they were insisting that I go to church in the middle of the week. What kid wants to go to church, right, in the middle of the week? So they are bribing me by giving me the two things I like most, something to eat and mathematics. I always got goosebumps doing math. And so I was sitting in the back of the church eating my M&Ms, the kind with peanuts, very special, and doing my math, and I was in seventh heaven. I was enjoying it, and they just thought if I was in the room, I would hear a piece of the message. I'd get something from it. I'd hear the singing. I always enjoyed the civil rights singing. Give those students a hand tonight for doing such a wonderful job. Would you please? They were wonderful. The passion with which they spoke, the authenticity, their singing of the songs. And similarly, we were having the singing of the songs, and I'm singing along, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. And it's just going on. It's just wonderful. And I'm singing and doing my math. And then the guy gets up and speaks, and all of a sudden, he says, and if the children participate in this peaceful march, all of America will see that even our babies know the difference between right and wrong, and that children want a good education. And I looked up and said, who is that guy? And of course, his name was Dr. King. And to me, it was powerful because I was tired of getting the hand-me-down books from the white schools after they'd used them for years. I remember so well in the second grade having a teacher tell us that the brown paper bags they'd put around this paper around the books, not to tear it off, to leave it on there. It was concealing something. Well, of course, little fat Freeman, I was getting fatter and smarter all the time, eating, doing my math. I began to peel back the paper, just trying to see a little of what was being concealed. And before I knew it, the curiosity got the best of me, and I just tore it off. And that's when it became clear to me. These were raggedy, these were old books with the names of the white schools and the white kids' writings for years. And I go up to the teacher and I say, why would they give us their books after they're finished with them? And the first thing she said was, boy, I told you not to tear that paper off that book. Wait a minute. But then I could see the look of embarrassment on her face. But then she said, you just remember this, son. The book may be second rate, but the knowledge is still first rate. But most important, you are a child of God. You will always be special. You don't have time to be a victim. You give me a hand for that idea. You don't have time to be a victim. And that message was always there that somehow, but when Dr. King said what he said it is possible that our children will get a chance to go to the school where they will have better resources. It was the first time in my life I believed or even had imagined that life today might be different tomorrow. That there should be hope that we could have a better world rather than things remaining the same. You know, I wrote a piece recently on 1963 on that experience, and it occurred to me that I didn't have any idea how many people were around at that time. And so I went and I Googled it, right? And found out that 2/3 of Americans had not been born in 1963. Now, for people who are young, of course, I mean, most of us are young. Now, let me see this audience. How many of you were not in the world yet in 1963? You see what I mean? Of course, now, some of you are my age. Thank you for being here tonight. That helps me out a great deal. I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that. But here's the point. When I talked with some people about, some of the younger people at first said, well, what difference does it make whether I was born or not? And I said, if you are in the world when there are certain experiences, you have a certain gut feeling about those experiences because you can remember when President Kennedy was killed, for example. Everybody remember, if you were in the world, you remember that feeling you had, that awful feeling. And amazingly, the young people at the time were not getting it. I said, let me ask you this. Do you remember where you were when 9/11 occurred? Do you remember what you felt? You see what I'm saying? Even for college students who are now maybe 8 now or 10 or 12, you know, and that feeling of, my God, is this really happening? Is that a joke? Is that for real? What does that mean to me? All of those emotions come up if you were in the world. And the reason it is so important that we tell our stories, all of our stories, is that we want every generation to appreciate what others have been through, to understand how we got to where we are today, to see what we might do to make sure we don't go backwards, to find ways of going forward, to be able to compare where are we today compared to where we might be tomorrow. And so I did go home and say, I've got to go to this march. And of course, my parents immediately said, absolutely not. And I said, wait a minute, you made me go to church, I didn't want to go. You made me listen to this man, I didn't want to hear him. You told me I was going to do what he said. I was supposed to be listening and following what he said. And now I want to do it and I can't go. They said, absolutely not. I looked at them and I said, you guys are hypocrites. Now, for the college students in the room, you did not tell your parents that in 1963. You did not tell you. My dad said, boy, go to your room. I knew I was in trouble. And I did not see them until the next morning. And when they came in, I became very frightened because I could tell they had been crying. They did not sleep. And it took me the longest time to tell this because you never want to see your parents crying. I didn't know what was wrong. I said, what's wrong? They had stayed up all night talking and praying because they said to me their concern was not my behavior. They did not know if they could trust people in jail to be responsible for their 12-year-old son. Now that I have a grown son, I understand exactly what they were saying. They did not trust those people. But what they finally said was, we put you in God's hands and you'll be okay. Give my parents a hand for having them to do that. It was really special. What you need to know, my parents had been educators, and the Board of Education had said any teacher's child who goes to jail will lose his or her job. So they were doing something that was very unusual, and this is the other part. People think, oh, so everybody was for Dr. King and everybody, no. In fact, the middle class, for the most part, was very worried that he was rocking the boat because we were making progress in Birmingham. In fact, it turned out Birmingham was the city that had more blacks who owned their homes than any other city in the country, believe it or not, in the early 60s. Because you had a lot of teachers with the steel mill, folks working at the steel mill, husbands and wives, and they were making progress. And the question was, do you upset the cart or do you just keep going along slowly and working hard? It was an interesting argument. These were all very decent people. But the point that was so important to my parents was that unless we had a chance to be empowered, to not simply keep working hard, but to say, right is right. And we must protest. We must show through American democracy that we can make a difference, that we can say to the country that we deserve better than this, that we want our child to be able to drink out of a water fountain and to be able to go to the restroom when he has to, and to be able to go to the movies, and to go to a school where he doesn't have to use used books. Because what was amazing was when my parents would say, well, let us buy his books, they said, no, he can't be different from other kids. You get my point? So you've got to have your children using these old books and not having a chance to have the best. And amazingly, they let me go. And students, you should know this. I was not a courageous child. Let me be very clear about that. The only thing I had ever attacked in my life was a math problem. Let me tell you that. When it was time for a fight, I was running the other way to go home and do my math, all right? Remember, get this image, a little chubby kid loving math, all right? And I ended up, because I was younger, I was 12, but I was about to go to the 10th grade. So I'd skipped some grades, and I loved school. And so I got a chance to lead my little group. And what's amazing is we got up to, all we were told to do was to walk through the police, get to the steps of City Hall, and kneel and pray. Pray for what? Pray for our basic rights as Americans. It was just that simple, just that innocent. And I'll never forget, and the reason, as I said to students earlier today, they would put us in jail is that Dr. King and leaders had asked the city for the permit to have a peaceful march, and the city would not give them that permit for a peaceful march and a peaceful protest. And as a result, anybody who marched would be put in jail. Now, I was frightened because they had the dogs and the fire hoses and all of that. And what they said to us that was so amazing, the people who were training us to do this protest, to go through this, they were saying to us to use the music, to elevate us, the same way these students tonight were using that music as a backdrop, as a context, as they talked about the experiences of people and thinking about what happens today in relationship to Dr. King's times and other times, and also to use it to inspire us not to be intimidated by the dogs and the fire hoses and the police, and most important, not to listen to what they were saying, because the strategy of the police was to talk about the one person in a kid's life that will make that kid fight. Who is that? The mother, and that's exactly what they were doing. Not that they knew our mothers, they were just saying the silly things, the awful things. And we were taught just to sing, and not with voices, but I really was singing, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. Keep on a-walking, keep on a-talking, marching on to freedom land. Imagine hundreds of children singing and trying to be focused with dogs and fire hoses and police and trying not to listen to that and being as afraid as possible, but with a vision that the future could be better than the present. And amazingly, we got up to the steps, and there was the police commissioner, the worst of my nightmares. Mean man, Bull Connor was his name. Bull. Very symbolically. Bull Connor. That was the meanest looking white man I ever saw in my life. And I looked up at him, and he said, "What do you want, little nigger?" And I said, "Sir," because Southerners didn't say sir, "Sir, we want to kneel and pray for our freedom." And he looked at me with such disgust and spat in my face. He did. He picked me up and threw me into the police wagon, and we went off and spent that week there. Now, the experience was filled with abuse, and yet it was empowering. In the middle of the week, our parents came, and all these little kids who were younger than me were just crying for their mothers, and we're trying to keep them calm, and then the bad boys were in, and they were trying to hurt people. And I'll never forget our parents outside the door, outside the jail. If you can imagine all these babies, these little children, 7, 8, 9, 10, up to 13 for my age group, and then another place for those 14. And imagine them looking at their parents outside with Dr. King, singing the songs. And then Dr. King said to all of these children, America's children, he said, "What you do this day will have an impact on children who've not even been born yet. And so don't you put your head down, put your head up, and feel noble for what you do this day." What you do. Powerful story. The only other part I will tell, amazingly, we got out, and the Board of Education was so vengeful. First day back in school, they suspended us all from school. And I'll never forget, I was devastated because I was an A student. I loved school. And the principal had no choice but to put us out of school. But this is the example of leadership. The principal amazingly called, rather than letting us go out in some moment of shame, the principal called the entire school together and decided to have an assembly of the type we had only when we had the induction to the National Honor Society. It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. He didn't want to do it, but he had no choice. So he decided, let me make these children feel they've got a badge of courage. And what he did was he had the entire, and he talked amazingly. He talked to me about the row and civil disobedience. He said, I want you to get this and read this. And he quoted from it in his talk in the most subtle of ways. And then he had the name of each child to be suspended, named, called, and that child came up to the stage. And when we were all on the stage, feeling so bad, we'd been through all of this in jail, and then to be embarrassed like this. And he said to the student body, these are your leaders. Let them know how proud we are. Standing ovation for us. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Brilliant, brilliant leadership. And within a matter, that was in May, and I want you to know we thought we were making progress, and all of a sudden the city leaders were doing things with Dr. King in the group to start making some plans to have blacks involved, because for those of you who are young, understand I had never seen one black person in any position of power in downtown Baltimore, not behind a cash register, not a black police, not a person of color as a fireman doing anything other than as a janitor. In our communities, it was wonderful. We had our black teachers, we had our black lawyers, all very second. But when you go downtown to a store, nothing, not even behind the cash register. So the idea was, how do we get some jobs? If we're paying all of our money down here, how do we have jobs at different levels? Making progress, and all of a sudden, that September, I'll never forget, I left school, and one of the last people I talked to was Cynthia, and I said, see you Monday, and she said, see you Monday. It was so nice. And in church that Sunday, I'll never forget it, all of a sudden my minister got up and said our sister church had just been bombed. Had just been bombed. And it turned out, and oh my God, and these were two sister churches where you had mothers at one place, daughters at another one, sisters, and very close to us. And on north and south side, built by two brothers, so close. And oh my God, I'll never forget, it was the worst day of our lives, because we knew that if they would bomb our churches, no one was safe. And people were finding people, and finally it came out they couldn't find 4 little girls. And then somebody remembered that those 4 little girls, dressed in white dresses, had gone into the bathroom, just primping and laughing before going up to church after Sunday school. How could they have known that the bomb was placed in the commode, behind the commode? They were blown to pieces. One of my little friend's father had given her a ring that morning. They found that baby's hand with the ring on it. And for some of us, for years, nightmares. It was as awful an experience as we could have had. My principal selected me to go to the funeral in the midst of people. You talk about social justice, you talk about people making changes, but you've got people who are always worried about rocking the boat. And so don't you know that some human beings, black, would say, you see what happens when you try to change things? You see what I mean? It was awful that they would try to make the kids and others feel bad for this, as if it were our fault that somebody could be so mean as to do something like this. But here is the hope. Dr. King came back from Atlanta. 3 of the girls' families allowed them to have the funeral together. It was the first time I'd ever seen something like that. A smaller coffin for a 12-year-old girl, Denise, and 2 other coffins. So 3 of the 4 were funeralized together. And he said to those mothers and fathers, life can be as hard as steel. And when things happen that we don't understand, we have no choice but to pray and have faith that a better day is coming. And I want you to know, it was the first time in my church I saw whites of all faiths there grieving for those children. And it was the first time that I understood that people of any race could care so deeply about little black girls. And it showed me hope as I had never seen before. Fast forward today, and here is the message. In many ways, we can say that if a person of any race can get an education, life will be better for that person. And yet in America today, the probability of someone who is first generation getting that education is so much lower than the probability for all the other groups. That we have so many young people and families that need our support, the support of a UMBC, the support of a UC Santa Cruz, that we must not allow our own comfort to have us so comfortable that we don't understand the responsibility we have to help those who are not as fortunate as we are. I want you to think about the power of education to transform lives, to help people who don't have what we have, of all races, people who are different from us, and whatever the difference may be. It may be LGBTQ, it may be income, it may be gender, whatever the challenges are, we are a better America if we understand that we must allow people to be who they are and to give them the support to be the best that they can be. Give me a hand for the idea of helping people become the best that they can be. It is so important. It is so important. You know, as I close, I tell the story of a dean of a medical school down in South Carolina who said that when there was a riot in the 60s in Charleston, he couldn't believe that the Negro doctors and nurses were supportive of the riot. He said, how could you as educated people be in support of a riot? And they said, come and walk with us. They said, this is where we have to operate, in the basement. Whenever the equipment is being used, we have to wait. I don't care how sick a black person is, whites always go before. And they went through all of what they went through, what they had to go through every day, even as doctors and nurses. And he said this, and this is what I leave you with. He said, the only thing worse than being blind is having eyes and still not seeing. And there's the question for all of us. What do we pass all the time and never really look at? I challenge you, Santa Cruz, to open your eyes to all that's around you, to challenge your students to say, we can be better than we are, to be the best that we can be. To the students, I say, you must get that education because you can't help anybody else until you help yourself. Give me a hand for that idea, until you help yourself. It is so important. I challenge you, Santa Cruz, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny, dreams, and values. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank Freeman for what I can only describe as an unbelievably inspiring talk. Thank you again for being with us today. And now, here to present the key to the city of Santa Cruz is our mayor, Lynn Robinson. Like her predecessors, Like her predecessors Hillary Bryant and Don Lane, as well as Watsonville Mayor Karina Cervantes, she is a proud graduate of UC Santa Cruz. Lynn?
Yes, we all have to be here and representing. It was so wonderful to hear who's in the room tonight. So I'm hearing we've got Seaside up there. I saw you up in the corner. And I hear we do have Santa Cruz High. Thank you for being here, too. And when the Chancellor said, and how many slugs do we have in the room, I heard a pretty good round of applause with that, too. And what an incredible evening for all of us. I mean, it's just so stunning to be amongst the caliber and the leadership that we have here tonight. And I have the distinct honor, as the mayor of the city of Santa Cruz, to bestow upon you the key of the city of Santa Cruz. And it's just with such honor because as we listen to you and realized what you bring, and when you talk about character and what you shared with all of us, it reminds us that we have a duty every day, and you were so gracious to come and be with us. We know your life is so busy and so full, and what a body of work you've already done, and I know there's so much more that you will be doing, but we are in just awe and gratitude, and it's my greatest honor to present to you the key of the city of Santa Cruz.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Really nice. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. It's not blessed. Thank you.
Dr. Freeman A. Hrabowski, somebody I've known for 30 years. First thing he said to me tonight when he saw me was, in front of a whole lot of other people, "I hired that young man." It's true. First job. Tonight, we want to commemorate the 6th annual Tony Hill Memorial Award, which is given to a member of the Santa Cruz community who demonstrates the hallmarks of Tony Hill's life. Mentor, inspirational leader, gifted mediator, and bridge builder in our community. Tony Hill, a prominent community activist, died of a heart attack in August 2007. He served on the Martin Luther King Convocation Planning Committee for many years. Here to talk about their selection and the award winner, whose birthday it is tonight, are the heirs, the family, the continuators, the legatees of Tony Hill, Melanie and Tara.
All right, good evening. Okay, first, please give it up for UCSC because this is an extraordinary event that's free for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
My mom and I are thrilled to be presenting the 6th annual Tony Hill Community Service Award. This could have not been possible without the vision of the UCSC Convocation Committee. We also want to give thanks to the NAACP, Interlight Ministries, Good Times, Sentinel, the City of Santa Cruz, Maverick Mailing, and especially those community members that took the time to submit nominations. Give it up. So in 2007, the Convocation Planning Committee gathered to plan the annual event, and for the first time in 23 years, Tony Hill, prominent community activist, was not at the table. My father had died at the age of 62. Needless to say, there was a void. The committee decided they wanted to honor him as well as encourage community members to continue the work. And so the Tony Hill Community Service Award was born. The selection committee created criteria, a person who demonstrated the hallmarks of my father's life. Inspirational leader, gifted mediator, a bridge builder, and a mentor. A leader with a vision for a better world who inspires us to work together and sees value in all people. He truly believed in having honest civil discourse and win-win solutions. Each year, my mom and I feel so blessed to have the privilege to learn about dedicated people who are strengthening our community and reaching across diverse groups within our county. People who have found their passion and purpose. As we engaged in honest, deep, and respectful dialogue, the selection committee unanimously arrived at our decision.
So today, we are honored and delighted to honor Gina Castaneda. She has touched many hearts, and she certainly touched the committee's heart as well. Maya Angelou said, "You may not control the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." Gina has certainly not been reduced. On the contrary, she has risen. And much like Tony, she has endured many adversities. And those adversities for Gina has become catalysts for change. So when I called her, because I get the honor of calling the winners, I let her know that she had won this award, and she was so honored, she cried, as did I, because Gina holds a very special place in my heart. We met over 13 years ago when I was a program manager and a clinical director at a nonprofit in Watsonville called Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance. And at the time, we had a position open, and it was for a gang prevention specialist to work with young children. And we interviewed her and absolutely selected her. We knew that she had what it would take to connect with young people. And I really remember being struck by her passion and her intelligence and her commitment and her empathy, because she knew intimately what kind of choices one needed to make to stay out of gangs. She also knew Tony, because each year we invited Tony to do True Colors at the agency. And when we talked on the phone, she also spoke of her husband being touched by Tony's work, because he had done some work at the city of Watsonville, and he came home all excited and he goes, "My God, this man was amazing." He told this incredible story. And so Gina, much like Tony, is a bridge builder. She's an innovator and an inspiration to many. In her role as probation officer, as a parent, as a coach, and a lifelong resident of Santa Cruz County, she continues to inspire all who know her. Through her enthusiasm, her boundless energy, her innovative activism, and her ceaseless dedication to the youth and families in our county. Fernando Geraldo, the chief probation officer, said, "She is devoted to saving lives and consistently sacrifices her own personal time just to make sure the kids on probation's caseload don't go without a cake on their birthday." Or by speaking to the parents of young boys who have been seriously hurt or even killed by rival gang members to prevent retaliation. Considered among the most innovative program for at-risk youth in the state, Gina is the founder and head coach of the Aztecas Youth Soccer Academy. And it is a pro-social mentoring solution offering sportsmanship, leadership skills, conflict resolution, and it really promotes self-esteem and self-worth. And what's extraordinary is that the team is made up of norteños and sereno, rival gang members, and they're working together to win. Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. And one more thing, because I could go on, because she's pretty amazing. In 2011, ESPN created a documentary featuring Gina's work with the Azteca soccer team and was presented at the Women's World Cup soccer tournament. And in addition, this past holiday season, Gina led an effort to collect toys for youth in foster care and distributed them to the dependency court judge to make sure that kids in need wouldn't go without gifts. Yes, she is extraordinary, and we are so delighted to honor her today. So we would like to invite Chancellor Blumenthal to give the award, and then we want, of course, Gina to come out here. So Gina, come on out. Woo!
Happy birthday.
We're going to sing happy birthday.
We've got to get a picture. Let's do a picture.
Will you please join us in singing It's Her Birthday? Happy birthday to her, okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gina. Happy birthday to you. Come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Go.
Good evening. I'm going to tell you a story of a little girl. She was born and immediately taken away from her mother and put into foster care, along with her 2 older brothers. She was born to a mother that was strong, courageous, smart, and beautiful, but was also addicted to drugs and alcohol. A victim of domestic violence, she was living a gang lifestyle. She was hurt and in pain, lost and looking for love. The baby was eventually given back to her mother with only one of her brothers. Her mother was struggling. She was in pain, and now she was inflicting this on her little girl. That little girl was physically abused, mentally abused, and verbally abused daily. She became homeless at the age of 11 and lived with her mother in a car. And after a few months, the car broke down. And she lived in abandoned houses and abandoned cars, and on the levee, and in local parks. That little girl was always hungry and cold. And as a little girl, she grew up and adapted to the gang lifestyle. Because of the abuse, she was very angry. She was now hurt and in full of pain. Daily, that little girl prayed to God and asked him why, but also asked him to save her. That little girl knew she needed to work hard and never give up. She had to follow her heart. At the age of 16, she was abandoned. She never stopped going to school. She got a job. She was a great athlete. Sports were her passion. Her teachers and coaches supported her. This little girl was the first and only person in her family to graduate from high school. She continues to work hard today to give youth the opportunity to succeed as she did. She is a loving mother, a loving wife. That little girl is me. I stand for happiness. All children should have the opportunity to feel happiness. I stand for the forgotten youth, the abandoned youth, the gang-affiliated youth, the drug-addicted youth, the foster care youth, the high-risk youth, the youth that feel hurt and pain. I was one of them, lost and a forgotten youth. Thank you, Mr. Dorfman, for seeing the strengths and the light in me, for coaching me on and off the field. Thank you, Ms. McGoffin, my teacher, for believing in me. Thank you, Jerry, for your support and advocacy. I've been fortunate in my life to have strong mentors and role models and supervisors. Just to name a few: Barbara Garcia, Alicia Nájera, Melanie Stern, Tom Burke, Sarah Anderson, Yolanda Perez Logan, Julia Feldman, Mindy Sutter, and Fernando Girardo. I would also like to thank my department, the probation officers, the supervisors and managers that work so hard to make better lives for the youth in our community. I want to acknowledge the Aztecas Advisory Board, and first and foremost, Judge Guy, for giving me a swift kick in the butt and told me to continue and to work harder and to keep pushing. And Fernando Girardo, Watsonville PD Officer Fernando Lopez, Jerry Ross, Sarah Anderson, Tony Hoffman, and Halal Ram to continue to support me in the work that I do. Thank you to the youth that believe that they can and will be the Aztecas, their coaches, mentors, and counselors. Just to name a few: Patricio, my husband, Caesar, Cindy, Peter, Christy, Alex, and all the kids that play on the team. A team would be nothing without their cheerleaders: Debbie, Rita, Lori, Uni, Maria, Kevin, and the Freedom's Lions Club. Thank you, UCSC and the Tony Hill Award Selection Committee. Tony inspired me throughout my life. I grew up watching Melanie do the work that she did, and Tony also. They were my inspiration. I got to see incredible work and wanted to do that same work. I want to thank you, Kathleen, for being my right-hand woman, for helping me daily run the Aztecas effectively, for your encouragement and support. And for my family, my three beautiful daughters, Alexa, Jasmine, and Samantha, and Patricio. Thank you for your sacrifice and sharing me with the community. First and foremost, God, thank you for answering my question. I now know why. I'm here to work. I'm here to follow your light. Thank you for guiding me to do the work that I do. If I've called your name and anybody that's touched my life, please stand so that the community can see how many people it takes to raise a child. Please stand. I too today have a challenge for you. I challenge you to never forget the forgotten youth. I challenge you as a teacher, as a coach, as a mentor, as a neighbor, to take a young person by their hand. I challenge the youth, if you need help, if you're hurt, and if you're in pain, to reach out and ask for the support. With the help of all these people, I have not only survived, but I have thrived. Please don't ever forget the forgotten youth. Help them thrive. Help them feel real happiness as I do today. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Tammy Brown has appeared on stage and in recording studios with some of the industry's best-known artists. She's currently a featured vocalist with musicologist and two-time Grammy nominee Linda Tillery and the Cultural Heritage Choir. Tonight, she is performing with members of the Inner Light Ministries Choir. Please give a very warm welcome for the extremely talented Tammy Brown.
Good evening. Such a wonderful time here tonight. Martin Luther King, love, justice, equality, hope, all the above. And look at the rainbow of love in the room. These songs were picked particularly for this event.
Oh, hey, what a moment you have brought us to, what a freedom we have found in you. You're the healer who makes all things new, yeah, yeah, yeah. Not going back, moving ahead, here to declare to you, the past is over and you, things are made new, surrender my life to you, moving forward. You have risen with all power in your hands. You have given me a second chance. Hallelujah, hallelujah, yeah, 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 yeah. Not going back, moving ahead, here to declare to you, the past is over and you, things are made new. Surrender my life to you, moving, not going back, moving ahead, here to declare to you, the past is over and you, things are made new. Surrender my life to you, I'm moving forward. Said I'm moving forward. You make all things new, yes, you make all things new. I will follow you forward. You make all things new, yes, you make all things new, and I will follow you forward. You make all things new, yes, you make all things new, and I will follow you forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Do you understand that in times like this, we need each other, right? Oh, I heard one. There's a lot more than one. Let's hear it again. Yes. So this song, to me, songs are messages. And I didn't quite understand that until I started living a little bit and seeing a little bit and understanding a little bit, conscious, becoming more clear. I'm having more moments of clarity. Yes, I'm loving that. We have a version of this song, and feel free, there's a part when you can join in But you gotta be on key though, that helps, okay? All right. And I wanna introduce this wonderful band. They're called Wasabi, and we are together. This is Ron Work on guitar, Jan Robbins on bass, and Alex Work on drums.
Sometimes in your life, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Please swallow your pride. If there are things you need to borrow for, no one can feel none of those things that you won't let show. Just call on me, brother. You need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. You just might have a problem you don't understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. Yes. Oh, lean on me if you want me. Lean on me when you need me. I'll be there. All you have to do is call me. Lean on me. Sing it with me, guys. Lean on me. Yes, if you need me, I'll be there. All you have to do is call me. Oh, lean on me. I'll be there. Lean on me. Oh, when you need me, I'll be there. All you have to do is call me. Yes, we all need somebody to lean on.
Yes. Lean on me. You guys got the message yet? Yeah. There's another song that comes to mind. You may recognize this one as well. We have a portion of the wonderful Inner Light Choir with us.
bright, sunshiny day. Think I can make it now, the pain is gone. All of the bad feelings have disappeared. Here is that rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. I can see clearly now, rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Look all around, there's nothing but blue sky. Look straight ahead, nothing but blue I can see clearly now, rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Join me, choir. Gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. Yeah, gonna be a bright. If you believe it, join in with us. Gonna be a bright, yeah, it's gonna be a bright, sunshiny day. The rain's gonna disappear, yes. Bright, sunshiny day. The sun's gonna come out, oh yes, a bright, yes, gonna be a bright, sunshiny
Thank you so much.
Great. Tammy Brown. And friends, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I want to wish you all a good night and the hope that you travel safely and that you take all of these messages mindfully and apply them tonight and tomorrow and every day forward. See you next year.